When we speak of the Pashtuns today, we think of a proud Muslim people, mountain dwellers bound by code and faith, heirs of empires and frontiers. But a historian looking backwards sees something deeper, older, and more complex. The story of how these highlands, the rugged slopes between Iran and India, changed their gods, their kings, and their very idea of the sacred. The land we now call Afghanistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa once stood at the crossroads of civilizations, Iranian, Indian, and later Islamic. Each left an imprint so deep that even today the soil seems to remember. Olaf Caroe, writing in the Pathans, sensed this vast continuity. For him, Islam did not sweep over these hills in a single tide. It seeped in slowly, filtered through centuries of Persian and Indian memory. Islam, he wrote, passed through a Persian prism. 2. The Iranian millennium. Long before the Arabs rode eastward under the banner of Islam, this region was part of an older unity, the Iranian world. For nearly 1,000 years, from Darius the Great to the fall of Yazdgerd III, the lands between Herat and the Indus form the eastern marches of Persian empires. They were called by old names: Bactria in the north, today's Balkh and Mazar-e Sharif; Arakosea in the south, the plains around Kandahar; and Gandhara in the east, Peshawar, Swat, and the valleys of Karsada and Buna. Under Achaemenid rule, Persian administrators and Zoroastrian priests brought order and ritual to these lands. Even when new powers arose, the Greeks of Bactria, the Sakas, the Kushans, they too became Iranized. Their coins bore Iranian symbols, their kings used Persian titles. The atmosphere, as Caroe wrote, was still Iranian. For 1,000 years, the people of these lands worshipped the fire of Ahura Mazda, revered the sky, and divided the world between the forces of good and evil. This dualistic vision, moral, cosmic, and absolute, would one day make Islam's message of one God and one truth seem almost familiar. Yet, by the 6th century CE, that old Iranian faith was waning, and new gods were rising. 3. The Indian Awakening. Between these Iranian centuries, waves of Indian influence surged northward. After Alexander's armies departed, the Mauryan Empire, born in the Ganges plain, extended its reach into Gandhara. The Emperor Ashoka, once a conqueror, became a patron of Buddhism, sending missionaries to the northwest. Under him, Peshawar and Taxila became great centers of Buddhist learning. Then came the Kushans, nomads who settled and built the Gandhara civilization, a fusion of Hellenistic art and Buddhist devotion. Their greatest king, Kanishka, 2nd century CE, ruled from Purashapura, the city we now call Peshawar. From his court, Mahayana Buddhism spread across Central Asia and China. The serene faces of the Bamiyan Buddhas, carved centuries later, still echo his faith. But this harmony was not to last. As the Kushan line weakened, Hinduism returned. Temples rose again. The old gods Shiva and Vishnu found new devotees. Buddhism, though once dominant, began to fade. By the 7th century, the Chinese pilgrim Hiuen Tsang found monasteries crumbling and monks few. In Gandhara, he observed, Brahmanism is in the ascendant. So when Islam was born in Arabia, the lands to its east were no longer Buddhist but largely Hindu. In Kabul and Zabul, kings still kept sacred fires, idols, and temples. The mountains echoed with the hymns of many gods. 4. The coming of the Arabs. Then came the Arabs, a new force out of the desert, carried by faith and the sword. In 651 CE, the armies of Islam broke the Sasanian Empire at Nihawand, and the last Persian king Yazdgerd fled east. For the first time, the call to prayer echoed near the Oxus. Yet beyond the mountains lay lands unconquered, where ancient rulers still held their thrones. Caroe divides the Arab advance into 2 paths. The northern route passed through Nishapur, Herat, and Merv, reaching Transoxiana, but but stopping short of Kabul. The southern route ran through Sistan, modern Zaranj, on the Helmand, to Bust, Zabulistan and Kabul, the heart of today's southern Afghanistan. For 2 centuries, the Arabs pushed and retreated, raiding but never holding. They fought the Zunbils of Zabulistan, named after their god, Zun, whose golden idol gleamed in the mountains near Ghazni. They confronted the Kabul Shahs, rulers whom Muslim chroniclers called idolaters. In 653, 661, 682, and again in 720, Arab generals claimed victory, yet the old faiths endured. The valleys remained independent, their temples untouched. The Arabs left garrisons in Sistan and Herat, but Islam stopped at the Hindu Kush. These were not mass conversions, but first encounters brief, uncertain, and often bloody. The real transformation would come centuries later, not through Arab spears, but through Persian culture. 5. The Persian prism, the collapse of Arab authority in the East, opened the door to new Muslim powers, not Arab, but Persian in spirit. From the 9th century onward, the Safarids of Sistan, the Samanids of Khorasan, and later the Ghaznavids, carried Islam eastward. This is what Caroe meant by Islam's Persian prism. When Islam reached the Pashtuns, it was already Iranianized, its language Persian, its theology colored by the great thinkers of Khorasan, its saints wrapped in Sufi robes. In the oases and caravan towns, Herat, Zaranj, bulk Arab traders and Sayyids settled, married local women, and founded families that became spiritual elites. These were the ancestors of the Sadat, Mians, Akhundzadas, and Sahibzadas who, centuries later, spread Islam through the mountains of Peshawar, Pune, and Dera Ismail Khan. The Arabs had come as conquerors. The Persians came as civilizers. They brought books, poetry, and law, and through them, Islam took root. 6. The long conversion. Even so, conversion was slow. For nearly 400 years after the Prophet, the highlands remained a frontier of unbelief. The Zunbils ruled Zabulistan until the 9th century. The Kabul Shahs, once Buddhist, had turned Hindu and continued to resist. In the valleys of Swat, Buna and Bajar, local cults survived under new names. The old gods lingered in village shrines and seasonal festivals. It was not until the rise of Mahmud of Ghazni, 998 to 1030 CE, that Islam advanced decisively. Mahmud, a Turk by blood but Persian by culture, launched 17 campaigns into India and made Ghazni a capital of both empire and faith. His armies shattered the last Hindu kingdoms of Gandhara, ending the rule of the Kabul Shahs. With his conquest, the doors of the frontier finally opened. But even then, Islamization was a social process, not an instant conversion. Tribes adopted Islam gradually, sometimes generation by generation. Many blended old customs with new beliefs, ancestor veneration, tribal oaths, the sanctity of shrines. The Pashtuns code, Pashtunwali, preserved echoes of pre-Islamic ethics, honor, revenge, hospitality, the sanctity of the guest. Islam did not erase these, it reinterpreted them. By the 12th century, the Ghurids, rising from central Afghanistan, carried Islam farther east into India. By then, the Pashtuns were unmistakably Muslim, their tribal names recorded in chronicles, their chiefs leading armies under the crescent. A transformation begun under Persian kings and Arab caliphs was complete. 7. Mapping the transformation. To grasp the scale of this change, a historian must visualize the old world beneath the modern. The Gandhara of the Buddha is now Peshawar, Swat, and Mardan. Arakusia, where Persian satraps once ruled, is Kandahar. Zabulistan, land of the Zunbils, lies between Ghazni and Helmand. Kabul Shah's kingdom encompassed the modern Kabul Valley and extended into Bajar and Swat. The Hindu capital of Hind, Hund, now a small village near Swabi, once commanded the Indus. Each of these ancient regions, once Buddhist or Hindu, is today part of a thoroughly Muslim world, an astonishing reversal that took place not in a generation, but over half a millennium. 8. The historian's reflection. For a historian, the most striking thing is not the violence or the conquest, but the continuity of spirit. The Pashtuns did not simply abandon one civilization for another, they absorbed Islam into their own sense of honor, law, and independence. The ancient dualism of Zoroastrianism. The struggle between good and evil found new expression in Islamic ethics. The Buddhist ideal of patience and inner balance survives in the reverence for pyres and saints. Even the Hindu sense of fate, of cyclical time and divine order, whispers beneath the fatalism of Pashtun verse. Thus, when we call the Pashtuns a Muslim people, we are naming the outcome of a long and intricate metamorphosis, one that blended Persian faith, Indian memory, and Arab revelation into a single identity. Caroe, writing with the detachment of a colonial scholar, sensed this vast depth. But a historian today sees something even larger, the making of a civilization where the meeting of worlds gave birth to a people. 9. Closing scene. From the fire temples of Arakosia to the mosques of Ghazni, from the monasteries of Gandhara to the Sufi shrines of Swat, the story of the Pashtuns is the story of transformation itself. Theirs was not a sudden conversion, but a long apprenticeship to faith through centuries of contact, resistance, and renewal. So, the mountains remember the idols, the prayers, the swords, the caravans. And the historian, standing at this frontier of civilizations, sees the arc of time bending toward a new kind of unity when the children of Zun and the followers of Buddha became the Muslims of Khyber and Kandahar. Sources. Based on Olaf Caroe, The Pathans, London, 1958. Chapter Arab expansion, with historical corroboration from Chinese pilgrim accounts, Yuen Tsang, Arabic chronicles, al-Baladhuri, al-Biruni, and modern geographical equivalents.